Hello, welcome back to another fantasy football video. I hope everyone is doing well. It's been a little while since I did my last video, but we are back today looking ahead to game week 31. Doing a little wildcard draft. I know a lot of people are definitely thinking about hitting that wildcard button this week. It's going to be a popular one. So today we're going to be building a little bit of a template draft and just playing around a little bit with the options that you have for game week 31 and hopefully taking you on into the back end of the season quite nicely. If you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for fantasy football content. Hit the like button if you do enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get straight on into this one. So I've gone ahead here and populated the first kind of 3 players in the team. 3 players I think definitely should be in your draft, in every single one basically. You've got the 2 Spurs boys there, Kane and Son. There's a lot of debate, especially around Son, whether he should be in the team. He has just recovered from injury. He got a good half against Newcastle, unfortunately. Couldn't get any kind of attack in return, but I do think Son is one you're going to want to have. You're going to want the double up on Spurs ahead of that double game week that they do have in 32. So I think that kind of having Son in there, maybe transferring him out, when it comes to game week 33, very well could be a play. Obviously with Harry Kane, he's just a captaincy option every single week basically, no matter who he plays. I think Harry Kane can definitely be branded as an essential player and 100% should be in pretty much every, well, not in pretty much, in every single draft that you make. And we have Ruben Dias there as well. I've seen some people shipping out Manchester City assets. I do think on the whole it is a good idea to get rid of Manchester City assets. However, Ruben Dias for me is just one that needs to stay in there. He's so consistent, plays week in, week out. Pep, he is the main kind of guy at the back for Pep. And as I say, will be playing week in, week out. He does have one blank game week, but considering they're very likely to get plenty of clean sheets throughout the rest of this season, I do think he'll pick up plenty more points even with the blank than a lot of the other defenders. So I think the next spot that we will look at is this spot here, the next premium midfielder spot, which is a very interesting spot indeed. The main kind of 2 guys that I'd be going for in this spot are Salah and Fernandes. De Bruyne gives himself kind of the outside chance of getting into that spot, but for me, it's mainly between Salah and Bruno Fernandes. Now, obviously, Salah did end that kind of goalless run that he was on against Arsenal, nabbing a goal there, getting an 8-pointer, and probably pleasing a lot of managers who actually held on to him. I think for me, personally, Salah actually provides a little bit more of a differential than Bruno Fernandes. Although he's got a high enough ownership where he really can't be considered as a differential, I think it's just dependent on your mini leagues or really what you're going for. In your mini leagues, for my mini leagues personally, more people don't own Salah than do own Salah, so Salah would be a differential in that case. He also has much better fixtures than Bruno Fernandes throughout the back end of the season and does look like a pretty decent option. With Bruno Fernandes on the flip side, he's been so consistent throughout all of this season, a good captaincy option in pretty much any game that he does play. He's the highest scoring FPL player currently, and I don't think personally I would want to go without him, especially when you see the kind of effective ownership of Bruno Fernandes. If you don't own him and he does well, you know, even if you do own him and he does well, most people will have captained him. So if you own him and he does well, you're likely to drop rank if you don't captain him. So going without Bruno Fernandes at all is extremely brave. I do think it just depends on what your plans are. I'll discuss a little bit later kind of moves where you could potentially get both of them come game week 33. But I think for now, I'm actually, it's a tough one. Because I think Bruno Fernandes playing against Spurs this week, you know, Manchester United do have quite a poor record against the kind of top 6 sides. They love a draw. So actually, I think solely for the captaincy option of this week, I'm going to go for Salah, because personally, I would be putting the armband on Salah for this week. But it's a real big discussion to have, and Fernandes easily could get in that team over Salah. And as I said, I will discuss later a way of getting them both into the side. Then for the third midfielder spot, or basically the third, fourth, and fifth midfielder spots are all going to be filled up by kind of similar style players. The third spot has to go to my main man, Jesse Lingard. I mean, he's been absolutely smashing it late. I've been lucky enough to own him through both of his 12 pointers. And I mean, the guy is just on absolute fire at the minute. There's no way you can go without Jesse Lingard for the back end of the season. Obviously, there is some news coming out that he may have picked up some kind of injury. So, you know, obviously wait and see until that kind of properly comes out, whether he's done his hamstring or not. But until that point where we get that information, I assume that he will be playing next weekend. And if he does, definitely for me, he kind of has to be in there. He's just been absolutely smashing it. So I think Jesse Lingard, yeah, for me is just a must own. In terms of the next 2 midfielder spots, a very similar kind of price. In terms of this 4th spot, we're going to be going for a man who's shown some absolutely electric form of late. coming back into the side off the bench, I think you all know who it is, and that is Diogo Jota. Now, with the likes of Jota and the likes of Salah, I would kind of wait and see what happens in the Champions League game. Either one of them could easily pick up an injury, and if they both play full 90 minutes, I think it's likely that we'll see some kind of rotation at the weekend, as they do kind of, in back-to-back weeks, play the Champions League quarter-final first leg and second leg, so I think Jota will be prioritised for the Champions League games rather than the Premier League games. But that's not to say that off the bench he couldn't go and absolutely smash it like we have seen him done so far this season. In terms of that fifth midfielder spot, I'm going to go in for a man who has very, very good fixtures and actually has posted some decent form throughout this season, and that is Pedro Neto from Wolves, coming up 5.7 million. I think he offers some unbelievable value and is quite an easy transfer, even if you aren't wildcarding, from Rafinha to Neto. It's a nice little swap there. Very similar price, 5.5 million to 5.7 million. And I think with the fixtures that Wolves do have, playing against the likes of Sheffield United, Fulham, West Brom, Burnley, Brighton in the next 5 weeks, I really think there's a great opportunity for Pedro Neto to go and grab you some points. Now, in terms of the rest of the attack, this spot here is basically our dot option, but I think it is a good idea with the kind of blanks coming up. The blank game week 33, basically, that you have players who can play or at least do play. And I think that's why Mate Vidra for me is a really good option. 4.8 million for a player who will play, and for a player who's actually been picking up some attacking returns as well. I think Vidra at 4.8 million, you don't really get kind of better value for money in terms of like a fodder option in the striker spots. Obviously, you know, the likes of Brewster can pick you up maybe a point a game, but for the extra kind of 0.4 million, I think Vidra with the potential of getting attacking returns, if you do need to play him, and you probably will end up playing him in the coming game weeks, I think Vidra is a class option there. Now, in terms of the last forward, you can really make this one your own. The likes of Calvert-Lewin, the likes of Chris Wood, even someone like Ollie Watkins could actually be a cracking option. And you know what? It's a tough one, because I really, really do like Wood. But with the fixtures that Watkins does have, I do think he's going to be a really good option, basically until like game week 35, 36. Because what's going to happen with Watkins is, yes, he's got Liverpool in this next game week. Now, I do think that Aston Villa can actually do something against Liverpool, and if Grealish is back, they'll stand a very good chance. Then, obviously, they have Manchester City, so you'd probably be benching him for that game week. But in 33, when that rolls around, the blank game week he plays against West Brom, in game week 35 onwards, he's going to have a double game week at some point against Everton, and Everton obviously are a 4 difficulty fixture on the FPL website or the FPL app. But in terms of defensively, they're not very good at all. It's just because Everton are good at going forward. So I think that Ollie Watkins is actually a very good option to own there. Now, in terms of the rest of the defence, basically the way I'm going to be sort of building this is having these two spots here as your main guys, the guys who are going to play week in, week out. These two are going to be more kind of fodder options that can maybe fill in a game week 33, and in the blanks kind of further on, I think there's due to be a few blanks come game week 36, so that's something to definitely kind of have a look at. Maybe go on Ben Krellin on Twitter and just have a look at the teams he thinks are going to blank, and bring in players who aren't going to blank that week and who are also cheap and also have good fixtures. I know it's a lot to ask for, but that's basically how we're going to be doing it. And the next defender we are going to be bringing in is Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's actually been picking up a fair few points of late, and as he was kind of last season, is when Liverpool do get a clean sheet, he's going to be picking up all 3 bonus points pretty much every single time. And I think with the fixtures that Liverpool have at the back end of the season, they're showing a bit more solidity at the back. They picked up a nice result against Arsenal. They could even go and push on and beat Real Madrid in the Champions League tonight, so you never know. So I do think that Trent for the back end of the season will be a very, very good option, especially with the fact that a lot of people have a lot of money in the bank. I don't think it'll be too hard for a lot of people to bring in Trent, and as I say, if he goes and picks up a clean sheet, he's likely to pick up a 9-pointer, and he's starting to sort of pick up assists again. That cross into Jota was absolutely delightful, so I think that Trent could be a very, very good option throughout the back end of this season. Now, the next defender we are going with is a player who, you know, they did bottle it at the weekend against West Brom, and that is the Chelsea defender Azpilicueta. They conceded 5 goals to West Brom. I mean, what was going on there? But that was mainly because they got a man sent off. I do think that Chelsea are going to be a good team, or at least a good defensive side throughout the rest of the season, and I do think that Azpilicueta will be a big part of that, and he has shown when they do keep clean sheets, he's going to pick up bonus points, and now and again he will and now and again he will pop up with a cheeky attacking return. So that's kind of the main base of the team so far. We've got the 3 at the back with Diaz, Trent, Azpilicueta. Then the 5 across the midfield, you'll be playing those week in, week out, and Kane and Watkins. And Vidra can also just slot in there as well. But as I say, with the likes of Ollie Watkins, it's just completely up to you. You can go with Calvert-Lewin, Chris Wood, or maybe go for a complete punt like Danny Ings, someone like that who can also play up front. In terms of the last 2 defender spots, as I said earlier, we're going to be going for a sort of complete fodder option. I think a really good fodder option so far this season has been Veltman. He's been really picking up some form of late. He's at a price right actually up to 4.4 million, but I do think that he is still worth it. And come game week 33, when the likes of Spurs and Manchester City do blank, he has a very playable fixture. They play against Sheffield United, so it's a really nice fixture for him to kind of rotate in for. And in terms of the last defender, we're going to be going for the Newcastle defender, Lascelles, basically just because he's really, really cheap and offers some pretty good value as well. You know, for my final fodder spot, I always like it if they can play. The likes of Reece Williams, Amity, Struijk have all been picking up game time but aren't consistent, whereas Lascelles will play week in, week out for Newcastle. Yes, Newcastle aren't the best defensive side, but Lascelles most likely week in, week out will be last on your bench. It's just if you really need him, he will play and he will at least pick up most likely 2 points week in, week out, which could add up come the end of the season. Now the final 2 spots are the goalkeeper spots. Now I expect most people will have Martinez. I've seen a lot of people debating transferring out Martinez, which, you know, I think could be a good idea. He doesn't have very good fixtures until the end of this season. I think there's 2 ways of going about it. I think you can either transfer Martinez out completely, just 1 for 1, and go for the likes of Nick Pope. Nick Pope has very good fixtures until the end of the season, so I think he could be quite a good option. Or you could go for a bit of rotation, which is what I've currently got in my team. Keep Martinez because he does have that game week 35, and maybe go for someone like Leno as well, who rotates very, very nicely with him. So that's kind of the combination that I'm going to be putting in there, is Leno and Martinez in the goalkeeper spots, just because, as I say, they do rotate around quite nicely with their fixtures, as Martinez goes into these 2 fixtures and there's Liverpool and Manchester City. Leno goes into fixtures against Sheffield United and Fulham. So if you're really trying to kind of give yourself the best opportunity to pick up clean sheet and even save points, I think that having these 2 guys rotating is a very good idea. Now this team value comes in at 102 million on the dot, so I do think that a lot of people will be able to afford this. Obviously there's a bit more time to tinker and a bit more time to debate what you're going to do, and as I mentioned earlier, I was going to try and figure out a way of bringing in Bruno Fernandes. Now if you do have a bit of money left over in the bank, as I think a lot of people will, then this will be very easy for you. I think come game week 33, it's just a simple transfer of Son to Bruno Fernandes, and then have Bruno Fernandes, Salah and Kane throughout the back end of the season. I think that's a very easy transfer you can make. If you really want Bruno Fernandes but you don't have the money to do the Bruno Fernandes to Son transfer, there's a couple of ways you can kind of go about making the funds. You can commit to 1 goalkeeper rather than going for the rotation. That'll free up another kind of 1 million. Then you can also drop the likes of Trent to another Liverpool defender, the likes of Kabak or something like that, although I do think that Trent is going to be a cracking option throughout the back end of the season. You can also drop the likes of Veltman or Lascelles to 3.9 million options if you really are looking for a bit of spare cash, but I think most of you will be able to make that transfer from Son to Bruno, and I think a lot of people will have value in different players, allowing them to have a bit more money. So this is kind of like a bit of a draft, a bit of a template team. I'd say the main guys, as I say, would be Kane, Son and Diaz. I'd be putting them into every single draft that I would make. Then I'd say that Trent, maybe Azpilicueta, Lingard, even Jota will kind of be the tier down from that, the next 4 players. Obviously Salah and Bruno is just kind of in a tier of their own in terms of not being the best, but that's just the debate you have to have between those 2. In my mind, there's kind of no other players other than those 2 who fit into that spot. The attacking spot with Watkins and Vidra. Vidra, I think, is just a great filler option, and Watkins, you can basically just make that spot your own and just decide what you're going to go for in terms of the goalkeepers, whether you're going to go for a goalkeeper or just commit to 1 goalkeeper throughout the rest of the season. So if you have enjoyed this quick little look at a wildcard draft ahead of game week 31, I'm really looking forward to the back end of the season and what it will provide to us as a potential of more blank game weeks and double game weeks to come. So a lot to look forward to. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you are new around here, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.